regular meeting of the Naperville Park District Board of Commissioners. Today is Thursday, September 24th, 2020. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Bruce. Bridget, call the roll, please.
President Riley?
Here.
Vice President King?
Here.
Commissioner Carlson?
Here.
Commissioner Egan? Commissioner Janner?
Here.
Commissioner McBroom?
Here.
And Commissioner Todd? I've
Here.
identified that Commissioners Egan and Todd have requested to participate remotely due to COVID-19 health concerns.
Okay. Welcome.
Move to allow remote meeting participation of Commissioner Egan and Todd due to COVID-19 health concerns. Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Would you call the roll of the commissioners that are here?
Vice President King?
Yes.
Commissioner McBroom?
Yes.
Commissioner Carlson?
Yes.
Commissioner Janner?
Yes.
President Riley?
Yes. Okay, next item is matters from the public. Do we have anybody from the public signed up to speak?
No, we don't.
Okay, and we move on to presentations. The Riverwalk 2031 Master Plan presentation.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Patrick Kennedy. I'm a Riverwalk Commissioner and the Chair of the Design, Planning, and Construction Committee of the Riverwalk Commission. And here tonight to talk about the Riverwalk 2031 Master Plan. I think to give it an overview, I think we all have a hard copy in front of us. I don't have anything projected for a presentation. And I'd like to kind of just walk through at a relatively high level and then answer questions, and maybe that's a better way to do it because there's a lot of information in the document itself. But at a high level, the intent and purpose of the overall master plan was to lay out, and as a commission, the future of the Riverwalk over the next 11 years, as it may be, and lay out a vision for both larger capital projects and smaller enhancement projects in a mix of various things to both fill gaps, to improve and enhance the Riverwalk. And in that manner, lay out our vision and the future of the Riverwalk to engage public entities, to engage potential grant opportunities, other funding sources, other neighborhood and community groups that may want to contribute to the Riverwalk, where in the past they may have come with their own ideas and we were in a reactionary mode. This puts us out front and lets the community know what our vision for the Riverwalk is. So we've worked over the last several months to put this together, met with numerous different community groups in various fashions given the times, and have taken a lot of feedback on the master plan, and what you see in front of you is what our commission has recommended approval and is requesting from you. What's the term we used? Endorsement. Endorsement. Thank you. Requesting your endorsement of the master plan at this time. So the first several pages lay out some of the history of the Riverwalk, really what it came from as a ground-up, community-based, community-driven enhancement downtown, and really honoring that tradition of how it's been built up over time. Talks about where the Riverwalk is today as an asset to the community in so many ways, and then talks about our vision through capital and enhancement projects and a number of the different requirements as a living document over a number of years. As you could imagine, different ideals will come up. People will still, and we as a commission will revisit this. So we laid out the criteria for any projects, for any consideration, and the criteria through which all of the projects within the plan were run, including improving ecology and habitat, completing connectivity gaps, expanding programmed capacity, increasing visitor safety, accessibility, hospitality, appearance with signature characteristics, and really engaging the next generation of Riverwalk advocates and donors. So with that, there's a number of capital and enhancement projects that I'm sure you've looked at. I'm not going to go through those individually, but really the point is we wanted a broad spectrum of projects from relatively small, like ecological restoration of the riverbank and enhancement of some of the overlooks to spruce them up and give them a facelift, to other more major capital projects that fill in the gaps, like the south extension to connect the hospital from Martin Avenue back up and extend the Riverwalk, where right now it ends right around the Brown's Chicken. That project would extend it all the way down to Martin Avenue and really give us a gateway and connect in that direction. So that's the kind of the range of projects, but don't intend to list each one of them individually. So essentially with your endorsement, and we're requesting the same of the city council, not requesting any funding, it would basically allow us to engage those groups in a fundraising capacity, knowing that we've got endorsement and support of both the Park District and the city. I think with that, I'd answer questions if there's any portions of it you'd like me to take a deeper dive into and talk about, or anything on the projects themselves.
Josh, I'd ask you, do you have any input that you'd like to add?
No, I thought the bike path is an interesting addition, right? That where exactly does that, it runs along North Central, right? The field?
Yeah, so that was in our engagement tour. We were getting feedback. The college actually came to us on land they own, essentially between the stadium all the way down to Hillside. And they don't reach Hillside entirely, but there's a little cul-de-sac there that they would connect to. And there's a gravel path there if you know the area. And similar to 430 South Washington, where they have provided the land and we've got funding to do a project and an improvement in partnership with them, they indicated they would provide the land, and it's a vision, so we don't have everything worked out obviously, but the vision is that we would have Riverwalk on both sides of that stretch of the river, on the north-south stretch of the river. And on their side, since there's ample room to do so, we would have a split path. One side would be brick pavers, would be pedestrians only. There would be some sort of separation. And if you look in your packet, it's visually represented the way we were thinking, that there'd be some sort of separation, and then there would be a separate bike path. So if you're riding your bike right now, you reach Hillside, and we don't allow bikes on the Riverwalk, I think, as we all know. But that's still a popular stretch for folks to ride their bikes on that stretch of Riverwalk on the west side of the river to get downtown. Because riding along the sidewalk or along Washington in front of all those offices and businesses isn't very safe or an attractive option. So we kind of fight that battle. If we could add a bike path on the east side, people could then, through that cul-de-sac, get all the way down to essentially the college, Fred and Hagen Park, and the vision is that we would have bike racks and other facilities for people to reach that point and then either walk their bikes or park and get closer to downtown.
Because the bike path stops basically at almost Loomis, right? Coming from the south, would we connect that, do you think? Basically, it would go through that neighborhood, East Highlands, and be right there.
It's on the street network at that point,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So this
Yeah, it's on the street.
This would extend that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ray, could I ask staff's view on this?
Oh, if you must. Of course. And there you have it.
It's a question.
So, from a staff perspective, I know early on, Ray and I and Kevin Finnegan, early in the spring, we had a chance through a Zoom meeting to review this master plan. Overall, we understood that it's more of a visionary living document. And yes.
Marie and Bill, can you hear Eric?
Bill's not on yet, he's coming.
Marie?
Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay.
So as a Park District staff, we realized it was a visionary document, And that, there's, as mentioned, there's 6 enhancements and also 6 major capital improvement projects. We had a chance to look through our capital plan and plan improvements to make sure it's aligned with, what our vision is as a park district, but overall, we do support it and we endorse it. As identified tonight, the request from the Riverwalk Commission is requesting an endorsement from the Naperville Park District. And I believe that gives you direction to proceed with the next steps and eventually bring it to City Council for consideration and approval. So with that being said, from a staff perspective, we do support it. And we spend a lot of time, actually, we do have members from our staff that actually serve on the Riverwalk Commission that assisted the team in developing this plan.
Any questions? Just go around and,
Do we vote on it?
do we support it?
Yes.
Yeah, so where do we go from here? I mean, you said it's going to go to city council for their approval, and then, how do we get from where we are right now to 2031? Is it a gradual process, or can you articulate that a little bit?
Sure, so, and that's kind of the last page is
Right.
the execution then.
Right.
So currently, there's funding for one of these projects,
Right.
that would be 430 South Washington. So what this would allow us to do is begin to look for potential donors, different groups that may be interested in donating, pursue grants. So we'd have to essentially cobble together the funds and look for different ways to put that together. Any one of these projects would come back in front of both you and the city for approval. They'd be required to get permits for construction and would follow any regular path for a project that's essentially the next steps.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, does staff, is there anything in here that you would, obviously, there's somebody that's always upset, like a resident objection to any of this. Has that been brought up at all? Is there anything in here that you think some neighborhood would be upset about?
I would say we've held over, I don't know how many, 15 to 20 meetings. We've engaged multiple groups from, the Rotary and the neighborhood groups like that. We've engaged the Neighborhood Federation of Homeowners Associations. We've held multiple Zoom meetings and quite a bit of outreach. Will everybody love every project? No, I don't think that would be fair. I think we've gotten a lot of feedback. We've made a number of changes to address a good amount of that feedback. We've met with the property owners along key stretches, the college, the hospital, and that downtown stretch, the property owners on either side. So I would say that from all of that, we've gotten an incredible amount of support, and all of the stakeholders are in full support of it.
That's great. Yep.
Mike?
All these improvements look great. There's another value add to the city. Looks fantastic. Love to see something happen at 430 Washington.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's good.
Marie?
It seems like it's a very ambitious plan. I have a question. Is there a timeline? I realize there's not funding for everything yet, but is there a timeline in terms of progression of projects?
No, and in fact, we've talked about 430 South Washington. With that funding in place, that will happen when the Washington Street Bridge project is done. They can't happen simultaneously, so that one will kind of kick off. We have a donor group interested in at least one of the enhancement projects at this point, so our hope is that if permitting works out, that in the spring we'd be kicking off one of the enhancement projects. And really, the rest of the projects there's different people who are interested in different aspects. The hospital is interested in the south stretch, as you'd imagine. So, and that's a bigger, larger lift. Some of the other enhancement projects, I'd like to think that there's some neighborhood groups that would be interested in pulling together some money and doing some of the enhancement projects. So we haven't prioritized them by schedule, because I think they're each going to connect with different parts of the community in different ways.
Okay. I have another question. well, I just forgot it now. Oh, well, it'll come back to me, I guess. Yeah, I'm in favor of this. I think it's ambitious, and it'll be interesting to see if we can get even halfway through these projects, I think. Oh, I know. My question is, have you gotten the Riverwalk Foundation to be engaged in actively soliciting funds? Because in the past, they wanted their role to be, well, collect all the funds, but they weren't necessarily active solicitors of funding.
It's a good question. I don't know if I can answer specifically for them. They have, as you probably know, they have a member of our commission. We have met with them a couple times about this plan. They're excited about it and supportive of the plan. They are the nonprofit entity in which donations to the Riverwalk flows.
Right.
And, but I can't speak for them on your question as far as, we certainly hope they will participate in the fundraising activities. I'm confident they will. It's probably a matter of extent is the question you're asking, and I can't speak for them on that.
Well, I understand you can't speak for them. I guess you should think about, the commission should think about going to the foundation and finding out if they are going to choose to be active in soliciting funds versus a passive collection. Because I think it could make a difference with this, with such an ambitious project that you're going to have to get donors. Somebody's got to go out and solicit donors. And if it's not the foundation, who's it going to be? Just because people are interested doesn't mean they're going to do it.
I think I agree with everything you said, so I appreciate the feedback, and you're right. I don't think any of us think it's a small hill to raise funds in this era, but and that's what we're setting out to do.
I think from my standpoint, I think the fact that...
Okay, thank you.
I think the fact that you put together a master plan looking out 11 years, it's a good place to start. I mean, if you think projecting 11 years is difficult, just look at, where we were in the first quarter of this year. We never would have anticipated where we'd be right now.
Right.
So, but this is a starting point, and it'll evolve over time, but at least, as you say, it gives people an idea of things that are being viewed for the Riverwalk and the improvements, and gives people an opportunity to comment on it. So it's good. So I think you have the unanimous endorsement of this body.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Next item is the September 10, 2020 regular meeting minutes.
Oh, move to approve.
That was an easy one.
That wasn't the plan I drafted. So, approve the September 10th, 2020 regular board meeting minutes.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Would you take the roll, please?
Vice President King,
Yes.
Commissioner McBroom,
Yes.
Commissioner Carlson.
Yes.
Commissioner Egan, Commissioner Janner,
Yes.
Commissioner Todd,
Yes.
President Riley.
Yes. Next under, thank you. We have new business.
Thank you all.
And discussion items. 6.1 is district bond grant.
I didn't turn the page.
Yeah, AAA.
Thank you. Good.
Thank you. I'm done. Yeah, high five, AAA. 12. So it's our 12th year of AAA rated. It went very well, the rating call. I know in board docs, we put the press release out and then the credit opinion. Just a couple thoughts on the call. And it's written in the rating rationale and a couple things to highlight. Affluent tax base, we're very fortunate we have that as our, as our backbone for our rating. specifically for the district, healthy operating reserves, strong ability to adjust expenditures, and we did talk a lot with the analyst about COVID, our plan, our reaction time, what we did, our expected results, which we were able to give him, where we thought we'd be in drawdown for this year, and they were very pleased with the plan, and that we even had a plan was a plus, that we just weren't saying we're just going to get through this and muddle through it. So a couple other things, our ability to moderate our own fees to a certain extent, a moderate debt burden, and low pension burden. So those are all a credit for the past 12 years of the board and staff that started down this road of keeping us in a good position, which will set us up very well for our upcoming bond issue. It's probably mid-October is when we're going to go to sale. Eric Anderson is looking every week and seeing what's going on in the market with other sellers, and we're going to adjust as we go along, and President Riley will be in touch about when that's going to happen, probably a week in advance, and to know when we need to, approve the bond sale. Okay?
I mean, you mentioned all the positives on the call. Was there anything that they cautioned us, like, hey, you got to think about this, or you're getting close in this area, or anything like that?
Not close. They always, they don't really do a caution as much as they asked about, because they're looking at our financials. They look at our plan, what our future plans are, and reserves always come up. And even noted in the press release is factors that could lead to a downgrade in the future, and they always, that's always out there. We talk about it, and that is a large decrease in the district reserves. We talk about that all the time. And there's a difference between a planned drawdown when we have a capital balance and we're saving, like you would for a large purchase at home, and you draw down. That's looked at as positive because you're planning for it, but a significant large drawdown just because, or if we're headed in that direction because we're struggling, is concern. So that's typically, they talk about strong and consistent management. We have all of that. So no, not anything other than, again, the reserves are always an issue with the rating agencies.
I know at 10 years we got the cake. Are we doing the cake just 10, 15, 20, or 10, 20, or?
You want to do a cake next meeting?
I mean-
We can celebrate with a cake.
Or donuts.
Donuts, or how about cupcakes, so they're individual?
Oh,
instead of a
individually
cake.
packaged, perfect.
Yeah.
10 donuts here.
We'll ship it.
Okay, I'm sorry, any other questions?
So, great job.
Thank you.
I want to make a comment.
Go ahead.
I think it's exceptional that we have been able to retain our AAA rating, especially in this environment, and kudos to Sue and her staff and really everybody at the Park District, the staff, to be able to work through this, significant curveball of COVID. And, I don't think that there's many park districts that would actually dare to go get a ratings from Moody's at this time. So I think it's significant that we've been able to achieve it, and exceptional staff that has allowed that to happen. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is the 95th Street Center lease.
Yeah, I'd like to present tonight some thoughts that staff has in regards to the 95th Street Center lease. The district began leasing space at the 95th Street Center, which was the Fry Properties building, back in November of 2012. And that initial lease was for 3 years with 2 one-year options to renew, which the district did do that in 2015. And at the same time, we added a space, another classroom space for WDSRA for a Lecotech program that they were bringing on board at the time. In 2017, we entered into a second addendum with the lease that continued that lease for another 3 years with 2 one-year options to renew again. And we're at the end of that 3-year term for the lease, which means that this fall, prior to the end of December, the board will need to take action on where we're going to go with that lease. If we're going to do the 2 one-year options to renew, if we're going to do something different, or if we're going to allow the lease to expire. The overall space that we lease at 95th Street consists of a registration office, We have 6 classrooms that are located there. The Lecotech room that I mentioned with WDSRA, and then a portion of the lobby and the common areas that we have. Of those 6 classrooms that we have, one of them is actually separated from the others. That's up on the 3rd floor. That's the culinary arts classroom. Staff has been really evaluating our overall space utilization at 95th Street, as well as the overall participation that we're seeing at the facility. And what we're coming to the board tonight with a recommendation for is that we actually work with the property manager and reduce the amount of space that we're leasing at the property. Each year there's about 3,200 participants that register for programs in a normal year at the facility. The overall cost to the district to lease the space is $240,000 annually. Right around there, it adjusts just a bit each year as we see some incremental increases. Of that $240,000, $158,000 of that gets covered by the revenue that we receive from programs, from special recreation funds that offset the WDSRA costs, as well as we sublease space on Saturday evenings and Sunday mornings to Compass Church, who is also a major tenant within the building. Compass is actually in the process right now of building their own facility on Route 59 as part of the development just south of Frontier. So that's going to be short-term from what we can tell. That leaves a subsidy where other operations and programs within our operations budget need to fund about $82,000 per year for the lease. What we're suggesting is reducing from the 6 classrooms down to the 3 classrooms, that we eliminate the registration office at that location, that we take the customer service staff working within that office space, we relocate them to the Knocknalls Nature Center, which becomes a full-service customer service location and still serves the south side of the community. And we keep 3 of the classrooms where we see the greatest amount of participation within the programs. About 66% of all of our participants are in classes that are within the 3 classrooms, and we see that there's still capacity within those classrooms to actually increase the number of programs that we have in those spaces if we didn't have the other spaces to program from. What that would do is reduce the overall square footage that we lease by just over half. And what it would also do, based upon looking at current registration levels, revenue levels that we see within programs, it would reduce the amount that we're subsidizing with other program and operational funds from about $82,000 to less than $20,000 per year. I've had an initial conversation before coming to the board this evening to present the thoughts here. The property manager is very open to working with the district in whichever route we would like to go. So if we do want to reduce the amount of space, we can certainly do that. He's very open to that. If we find in the future we would need to increase it again, he's open to working with us on that. So I wanted to present that to the board this evening. We did have a brief discussion about this at the last Parks and Recreation Committee meeting, and see what thoughts are among the board members as far as moving forward and reducing the lease space. We would look to exercise the 1-year options, but amend the lease so that it was for a lesser amount of space. So.
Yeah, we did talk about this some good length in the Parks and Rec Committee, and I think, we sort of challenged Brad and the staff, can we look at this a totally different way and just maybe identify a totally different property or anything like that, but Brad had pointed out, which I think is right on target, that we've already invested in some infrastructure and that type of thing in there, so it made sense to the committee and myself included to follow this guidance in this direction, as opposed to, basically backing away from the table and starting from scratch. People already know that this is a Park District facility. It has been since 2012. And, I would just say we put our best negotiation foot forward. I mean, I think you probably know better what the real estate market commercially is probably tough right now. I mean, with a lot of open space out there and maybe companies scaling back because people are working remotely. So I think we negotiate hard, but I think that this is the best option.
Great. Just a point of clarification, just because I don't know the history, but so we lease and it costs $240,000 a year for the lease?
So the current lease is for just over 12,500 square feet within the 95th Street Center of the Fry Properties building next to the Fry YMCA.
Right. And then the sublet?
Yeah, so on Sunday mornings and in a few rooms on Saturday evenings, Compass Church, during times that we don't normally hold recreation programs, they utilize our classroom spaces for church programs. And so shortly after entering into the lease, we actually entered into a sublease. Actually, the property manager at the time encouraged us to do that, for Compass to utilize that space for their programs. It's been a great partnership. It's certainly provided us with some revenue to offset our costs each year, but we see that going away as Compass is building their own facility.
So we haven't really been losing money on the lease, or we have this $80,000 difference, is that made up by our program fees, or?
So the $80,000 difference is made up by other program fees, other operational funds that are separate from anything that takes place within that facility.
So Compass is probably leaving, so we don't need all this square footage, or our program revenue is not going to cover all that.
Our program revenue doesn't currently cover all
and
of
it
the
won't
costs.
when they leave, for sure.
And it won't when they leave, correct. One of the challenges with the types of spaces that are within this facility, when I mentioned classroom spaces, they are classrooms. They're not the large open spaces like you have in the facility that we have here to do the more active types of programs. We do have a wood floor studio in one of the rooms, which is one of the rooms we would look to keep and is part of some of the infrastructure costs that we've put into the space. There's a multi-purpose room and another classroom that we can run a lot of activities, but it has been challenging with some of the activities because of the types of spaces that we have. We find that, as we've evaluated this, having all 6 of those classroom spaces is not something that we need right now to move forward. We could really utilize the 3 that are used most often and save the district some costs by doing that.
Save costs and not eliminate programs.
Correct. Well, so like the culinary arts classroom, that would be one of the program areas that we would look to eliminate from this lease. We've had a difficult time getting the culinary arts classes off the ground. We would look to reduce the programming. One option for us is to actually hold some of the culinary arts classes at the kitchen that is located at the Rubin Center in downtown Naperville. So it would not be a complete elimination, but there would be a reduction in some of the types of classes that we offer.
Sounds good to me. Yeah.
Sounds good, yeah, I like it.
Question, how much revenue do we get annually from Compass?
From Compass, right now it's right around $17,000 a year that we receive from Compass.
What's their target date for moving up? Did they share that?
We've not received that yet.
I know the church is under construction.
Yeah.
But, when's going to be completed?
I would anticipate, just based upon seeing the construction taking place, that it would be sometime in 2021 that Compass is going to move into their new facility.
And, you're basing this on current utilization. And obviously, we're in an unusual year. Let's say, if we backed up to 2019, would you still have the same recommendation for the space?
Yes, and actually, everything that I referenced, as far as our program, our participation levels, our revenue levels, is from 2019, knowing that 2020 was a very different year.
Okay. Any other questions? I think there seems to be general support for this approach.
Sure. Absolutely. What we will do as a next step then is work with the property manager on what that amended lease would look like, and then bring it back to the board for consideration this year.
Okay, thanks. Okay, next is the Trails Master Plan update.
So this is the second master plan update of the night, but this is the Trails Master Plan. And this update was actually presented at the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting on September 18th. Also included in your weekly packet for September 18th, you probably noticed a copy of this Trails Master Plan update. The Trails Master Plan itself was developed in 2008. It was a recommendation from our Open Space and Recreation Master Plan. And then since then, we made updates throughout the year. As we always hear about these plans, from other organizations, they just go on the shelf, they collect dust. We take the active approach in updating this plan every so often. The last update occurred in 2014. So in this update, the one we're talking about today, spans from 2014 to present day. And as you look through the plan, you'll see all these improvements we made as far as trail linkages, regional trail connections, through that time period, but we also looked at proposed improvements. A great example is the Wolf's Crossing Community Park with the loop trail and the linkages to the east-west corridor that we already have in place. And what's really nice to the south and the southwest, there's other entities such as the Forest Preserve District of Will County that has Vermont cemeteries. We're not only linking to our own system, but also other systems within the city of Naperville limits and along the regional borders of the city of Naperville. Also in the Trails Master Plan update, we talked a little bit about future improvements and ideas. Starting to evoke conversation around possible trail improvements and connections in the future, and then also trail data. For instance, if we look at our concrete, asphalt, brick, paver type trails like along the Riverwalk, we add it all up. As of right now, we have over 79 miles of trails within our Naperville Park District system. So as far as next steps, as we know this update in our trails, they're aligned with our core values. So as we're looking at accessibility, health and wellness, community and or personal growth, and environmental stewardship and sustainability. So it's all linked to what we practice and we see as important as the Naperville Park District. And also, as we know, when we look at our community and interest and survey data that we collect every so often, what's the top outdoor amenity? It's trails. So this is something we thought was important. We wanted to share with you this evening, gather your input on this Trails Master Plan update. The input we received tonight will assist us in finalizing this Trails Master Plan update, and we intend to present a final version for consideration and approval at the October 8th meeting. Once approved, we intend to add it to our website, along with the first edition of the 2008 Trails Master Plan and all the other updates along the way, to have a complete package for people to see all the progress we made throughout the years here at the Naperville Park District.
Questions?
Yeah, just to underscore.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Marie.
Eric, just, I guess for the rest of the commissioners, what's the standard for the recommendation of how many miles of trail we should have per capita, and how close are we to that? Or do we already need it?
Marie, I'm going to check with Aileen McAdally, who's here from our planning department, who may know better as far as the NRPA requirements for the standards for trail miles within communities.
Hey, Marie, I don't believe that there is a standard per capita, but that is something that we can definitely look into and see where we measure up.
Okay.
I'll look into that.
Yeah, I was just going to underscore what Eric had said. I mean, every time we do one of these surveys of all the things in the Park District, pools and everything, I mean, the trails is always top. So I'm glad we're on top of this. Again, we looked at this in the Parks and Rec Committee and determined, we thought it's very thorough, and looking forward to making sure we're taking care of what we have here and making some enhancements as well.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, next, purchase of a Toro Groundmaster production mower for parks.
It will be our intent to present to the board the purchase of an 11-foot Toro Groundsmaster 4000D production mower at a cost of $56,657.44. We had previously targeted an 11-foot Jacobson mower, but were able to locate a comparable unit for about $10,000 less. Working with our fleet staff, I recently learned that mower manufacturers are not required to stock parts for equipment more than 10 years old. Our current Jacobson mower 201 was manufactured in 2009. This can often lead to a shortage in replacement parts or increased downtimes as we search for non-traditional suppliers. Additionally, Parks has not had any backup mowers for several years. While mower 201 may not be useful as an everyday workhorse anymore, with limited use, we should be able to keep it up and running as a short-term fill-in. As one could imagine, losing a production mower in any one of the 3 Parks divisions can really put us in a bind. With the purchase of the replacement unit, we'd like to hold on to Unit 201 and repurpose it as a limited use backup for all 3 Parks divisions. Any questions?
Questions, comments? Needs a resource.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next is surplus property.
So I've got this one too. We'd like to bring to the board the option to surplus various pieces of equipment, including a 2008 Chevrolet Express cargo van, a 2012 Ford Transit Connect van, and a 2013 Toro Sand Pro ball field rake. All the replacement units had already been purchased earlier in the year. We held on to these pieces of equipment until those new ones arrived, and now they're ready for surplus. Outside of the memo provided, we did recently receive two other items. One from our golf department. They're looking to surplus a 2007 Yamaha utility vehicle. And from the beach, they'd like to surplus two ADA lift chairs. Any questions?
So it just goes on Gov Deals then or whatever, and then
Right, we'll see if we can, if anybody's willing to bid on
Can we
it.
set a minimum price? So how does-
Yes, that's been our common practice.
Okay,
Thank you.
Move on to department updates, start with administration.
Just a reminder, as of Tuesday, candidate petitions can be circulated if you are planning up for re-election and need a packet. I brought one extra with me, or you can stop by the office. I'll start taking them December 14th through the 21st.
Finance. You want just yell AAA?
I was
back
gonna,
to the road
triple,
safety?
how about 2021 budget? Really? That's my report. And a audit. I am done. Does anyone have any questions?
Golf.
Golf is open.
Yay!
Yay! No, I just have a couple of quick items for a golf update. First mention, our final tournament for 2020, the Fall Scramble, is scheduled for October 10th at Springbrook Golf Course. We've been overwhelmed with the demand for our tournaments once we started kicking those back in earlier this summer. And this event, like the others, has filled quickly. We have about 144 participants signed up to play. Our staff has successfully adjusted our tournaments to be able to safely run within the current guidelines and making sure our appropriate intervals and spacing are followed, along with other protocols. Our other two events that we were able to host earlier this year also saw significant increases in participation. Our demand for golf overall continues at both golf courses. September rounds and revenues are projected to surpass budget, even despite a rainy week slowing play earlier this month. Golf revenues overall are already ahead of 2019 year-to-date numbers. And with our September revenues surpassing budget, we are continuing to get closer and closer to being back on budget for our 2020 revenues. And this is despite all the restrictions and course closures we had earlier this spring. A couple of quick highlights. The range at Springbrook is currently on track to surpass the budget and 2019 revenues, which at the time, 2019 was the highest revenues for any year on the range at Springbrook. And what makes this all the more amazing is the fact that the range has only been open since May 28th of this year, so it's been done in about 5 months' time. Our lesson programs continue to be very much in demand. Our summer lesson programs were very successful, especially the junior programs, but our fall lesson programs, which typically are not our most popular, have seen nearly 100% utilization. We've added additional programs to help meet the current needs, but in many cases, we just don't have enough room or enough time to add more programming. A perfect example of this is our Sunday afternoon 9-hole junior league. In the past, the time frame for this league would have played in a less public, there'd be less public out there on the golf course, and we would have had plenty of room to accommodate a small number of juniors or expand. Unfortunately, this year, our junior league program is full, and the public is eagerly taking all the available tee times, so we have a really limited ability to expand that league. Lastly, I want to mention September obviously is wrapping up soon, and at the golf courses, that means our Golftoberfest is starting up. Beginning on October 1st, Golftoberfest is our month-long customer appreciation event, and that's going to include discounted fall rates, specials on merchandise, fall food and beverages. And then, of course, our most frequent and our best customers, our Brooks Advantage members, will get to enjoy our best specials and rates. On the golf maintenance side, staff will be waiting until late October and November to begin some of our more intrusive and invasive course maintenance tasks, such as the aerification. So we want to make sure everybody can enjoy the golf courses this month and next month in the best shape possible.
Thanks. All right, next, human resources.
So, as you may be aware, COVID-19 killed all of our employee appreciation events. From a budgetary perspective, it made sense not to hold them. It also made a lot of sense not to bring all of our staff together. But on October 1st, we are going to kick off our third Spirit Month, and we are doing it very socially distanced. But we are hoping to have a little bit of fun with all of our staff. We're going to recognize things like National Suspenders Day, National Blue Shirt Day, mental health awareness, back safety. There's a lot of different things we're going to try and do. A lot of selfies for drawings. Stacy from marketing has been great in giving us some items that we can raffle off to staff. Not raffle, but pick a name if they send in a selfie of them wearing a blue shirt kind of thing. So kind of excited about that. It's very watered down, but it's something to bring everybody back together. This is also the time of year when anything that is up for renewal as far as our group plan coverage goes, we're looking at marketing those plans, and this year it is just our dental plan. We worked with our broker who took our plan to 6 different companies, in addition to our current carrier. And on October 8th, I'm going to bring before you for approval our 2021 coverage recommendation, which is with Emeritus. We were with Emeritus back in 2017 and 18, and we're very happy with them from an admin perspective, and then also from actual benefits, staff is very happy as well. They have offered the district a 7.75% decrease and to hold those rates for 2 years. So we're looking at an overall savings of about $9,500. Staff contribute to that cost as well, but kind of excited that that is something that we can offer. It's very minimal plan design changes. It only impacts sealants and spacers if you go out of network. So if you don't need those and you don't go out of network, it's the same benefits. So that will be before you. If you have any questions on that? No? Okay, thank you.
Next, IT.
I have to leave the DJ booth. There it is. All right, so our support, functionality has had to carry on from its typical traditional, end on Memorial Day kind of thing. But I really did want to take an opportunity right now to acknowledge all of the hard work that all of the staff have done. I know there's a lot of things that don't get seen, kind of behind the scenes, but rec staff, marketing staff, HR, absolutely everybody has really embraced technology and the changes, and they've gone with the flow from implementing new systems to offering the e-learning experience. It's things that they have really gone above and beyond to present to the community, and honestly, that it goes without saying, with the utmost professionalism. We've gone over there to assist, but for the most part, it's something that they've done on their own. And even in talking to Angelique Harshman, she's our nature center manager, and she's looking for ways to do nature hikes, and make those live. That's pretty awesome. So, I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that. I mentioned a couple meetings ago that we were going to be bringing a project, the bids for replacing the core switching equipment for this building and our administration building. I've gotten 2 quotes so far. I'm looking for that third one. It is a sizable purchase. It is very hard to find companies to bid on those. Typically because they're specialized. So you have to be a certain level partner, and it's not like I can go, pick some of these switches and networking devices off the shelf anywhere, because they're that specialized and they manage our phone system. So other than that, I don't have anything else if anyone has any questions.
Thank you.
Okay, Samir, Marketing and Communications.
Good evening. I've got a couple of updates tonight from a marketing perspective. So for the past several years, we've been using Meltwater as our media monitoring service, and each of the commissioners and staff gets what's typically a daily alert with any kinds of district news. On October 1st, we're going to end our contract with Meltwater for media monitoring services. In doing so, we'll save the district approximately $6,000. We are going to transition to Google Analytics, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with, even just Google products in general. Google Analytics really does a very similar thing. So there's going to be a memo in tomorrow's packet that explains some of the details with that transition, and it should be relatively simple. Everyone will receive an email whenever there is an article, there's some kind of media coverage about the Park District. However, I would be interested in finding out your feedback if you feel it's working well. If you've got other suggestions along the way, I just don't want to look at this as a cost savings. I want it to be a useful tool as well. But I do want you to know that for the past several weeks, staff has been doing a side-by-side comparison of the Meltwater tool and Google Analytics, and it's nearly identical. So I think the results will be good. With regard to the virtual program guide, as you're well aware, beginning with the summer 2020 edition, we ceased the print product in favor of a 100% virtual guide. And it was somewhat of a leap. Just knowing that the most recent community interest and opinion survey data told us that about 60% of residents at that time still wanted to receive the hard copy. But COVID being what it is, and looking for budget reductions, and also really looking for flexibility for staff, because that was something that was almost equally as important, knowing that the recreation staff needed to compress the time. We needed more time to make decisions, and the whole printing and production process just didn't play into that whole scenario. So in running some website analytics, because I wanted to see what are we seeing, how many people are accessing the virtual program guide, keeping our fingers crossed, hopefully people know about it, we keep pushing the message out there, it's available, but you want to see the data. So when we compared the virtual program guide use of autumn 2020 to autumn 2019 for that similar time frame, it was about a 5-day period, we saw a 419% increase in unique page views in 2020 compared to 2019, which is really, it's fabulous because people are finding it. We even saw a significant jump in virtual use comparing the autumn 2020 program guide to the summer 2020 program guide, which was an increase of about 190%. So even from one season to the next, we're seeing really great use as far as an increase in use. And the data really illustrates that people know that it's out there, they're finding it. So that's a great step, and the first step in the process. That's something that we're going to continue to evaluate from season to season, is to look at that website data, the virtual program hits, take a look at what we're seeing from unique users, and just see what kind of story that tells us. So I wanted to share that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Question? Thanks.
Mr. Riley, I have a couple comments.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Egan.
From my point of view on the Meltwater, I say you just dump it, don't pay Google anything. I set a Google alert, and I'm getting the same stuff for free in my personal email. And I do believe there's a few instances where I've even sent Mr. McGurry a few articles that weren't coming up on Meltwater. So I'd say dump that. Whether it's the pandemic, I've been arguing for years that we should be online with our guide and shouldn't be wasting money on the print and the mail. If the pandemic has shifted people's views on that, so be it. But we need to dump the print and use those resources to put some money into our free and reduced or lower income folks and get them into our programs. From where I sit, there's no need for that. Thank you.
Just to clarify, in the Meltwater versus Google Alerts, we are transitioning to Google Alerts, and there is no fee, so we're saving those budget dollars.
That's what the $6,000.
Yes, correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you. So we wasted my last few years, but so be it. We're going to zero. I like that. Thank you.
Okay, next is Park Police.
Yeah, so just a quick update. I continue to work with the city police, monitoring the situation, obviously, that I made you all aware of, and potential for threats in the downtown area. So far, those have not come to fruition, but they continue to watch and monitor social media, and should something come up, I would certainly inform you of that. And then Steve, looks like he will return to full duty next Monday. That's the news so far.
Good. That's good news.
Yep.
Okay, Parks.
Fall turf maintenance season kicks off again in September. Typical activities you'll see staff implementing include seeding, fertilization, aeration, and broadleaf weed application. Also, with the reintroduction of rain to the area and some cooler temps, our mowing staff is full speed ahead. With the opening of the synthetic turf field at Knock Park and the reopening of the field at Nike, all three divisions now have all turf fields up and running and maintaining. Additional soccer frames were delivered yesterday at Knock Park and at Nike. Unfortunately, both the Dandelion Fountain and the fountain at Friedenhagen Park have been shut down for the year due to vandalism. Additionally, the horse trough fountain will be shut down as a precautionary method. And typically, those three fountains are shut down later in October. Unfortunately, Central Parks had a full-time staff member resign, bringing the total number of open full-time positions in parks to 4. That number represents approximately 15% of our available full-time labor hours. Combined with the reductions in part-time staffing, we're starting to see more and more of the effects in the appearance of our parks. And to end things on a more fun note, at the garden plots, staff is working with former Commissioner Ron Ori on transplanting several small trees from the nursery area and relocating them in various park sites. Additionally, staff harvested over 100 pounds of honey from the on-site beehives, and much of that will be delivered to local food pantries. Thank you.
Thanks. Blending and development.
Last Thursday evening, the Naperville Park District hosted the ribbon cutting event for the Knock Park Improvements Project. As we know, that was very much needed synthetic turf field space, the addition of 4 pickleball courts, ADA accessible pathways, landscaping, and site furnishings. Also, as we know, in July, we held the ribbon cutting event for the 95th Street Community Plaza. So 2 of our 3 large-scale capital improvement projects are completed for the year. The last one is West Crossing Community Park. As we discussed earlier, we're targeting a ribbon cutting event in May of 2021 so we can have all the amenities operational, including the splash pad, the restoration of turf and prairie areas, all that would be grown in. It would have 2 growing seasons with the fall of this year and the spring of next year. So we're excited about that, but what I want to mention is there's a lot of other improvements related to West Crossing Community Park that are slated to come online next month. So as we reach substantial completion, we're looking at the court spaces of the basketball, the pickleball courts, tennis courts, the playground, the fitness challenge course area, parking lots, some of the trails. So there will be some of that open up to the public later this year. More information will be pushed out in the upcoming weeks, but we just want to let you know. Also, as a planning department, we're focused not only from the planning side, but also the trades division and formulating our 2021 capital budgets and operating budgets. From the capital perspective, the budgets were developed based on scopes from input we received from the community open house, the virtual version that we held for 2021 projects. In past years, looking back 2 to 3 years, we averaged about 15 to 20 residents that showed up in person on our capital projects open house. With our virtual version, we had over 600 page views of our 2021 projects. So a tremendous increase in public participation in past years. We definitely plan on continuing that in future years, but just want to let you know how successful that is, and the input we receive is actually going in to develop these scopes and budgets that we're working on right now.
Okay, finally, recreation, Brad.
Well, as we get closer to October, we also get closer to what is typically our largest event of the fall, which is Halloween Happening. where we can have over 3,000 kids and their families at the Grand Pavilion area to enjoy that holiday. Obviously, that cannot happen this year, just with the various restrictions. So staff is right now revamping that event, and we're actually working to create an event that will utilize the front of Centennial Beach, where we will decorate the front of the bathhouse with a number of lights, scenery to celebrate the holiday, and we will have a drive-through event for families where they will register in advance so we know how many cars are coming. They'll be able to come through, see the Halloween-themed world that we'll have at the front of the beach, and then at the end of that, each child in the car will receive a bag from the district with items from our sponsors for the event, from the Park District, as well as prizes and candy. So we are in the process of putting that together, and more information is going to come out in regards to that. As Omar mentioned, our e-learning experience is up and running both at the 95th Street Center as well as the Riverwalk Community Center. We have a total of 34 participants that are registered in the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and also in the Tuesday, Thursday program. And it's our intent that so long as the school districts continue to have remote learning as part of their courses this fall, we will continue to offer that program. So if they were to shift to a hybrid type of program, then we will also look to revamp our program so that those days when the kids are not in school, we would still have that opportunity for the families who need that e-learning experience. As I mentioned at the last meeting, we were in the process of revamping or completing modifications to our fall sports programs. Those programs are now up and running. Our Naperville Youth Soccer program being our largest program, we had 1,680 participants that transitioned from our regular soccer league program into the academy program that we put in place, where they scrimmage other players each Saturday. So overall, 77% of the initial registrations that we had for the program remained in the program even after making those modifications. Our program, when we compare it to 2019 in the fall, we're at 66% of the registration levels that we had seen for that program. And again, the soccer program is the largest one that we offer each year. We offered fall t-ball, coach pitch, and girls softball for the first time as a fall sport. And this first year, we have 29 teams that are in those programs. So those leagues are up and running, and those leagues, just based on the guidelines, are able to actually play the competitive games. So they're well into that. Our youth basketball and indoor soccer is coming up relatively soon. Later this fall, we have our first session, then we have our winter session that will take place after the first of the year. Staff right now is finalizing all the details around those leagues, beginning to make contacts with coaches, and we are going to begin taking registrations for modified basketball and soccer programs in the coming weeks. So more information to come on that. Our paddleboat, kayak, and paddleboard rental season is nearing an end. We are going to continue that as long as the weather will permit on the weekends. That is one area where, similar to golf, where they have seen a real spike this year after being able to get out from under the restrictions from earlier in the spring. The same can be said with paddleboat, kayak, and paddleboard rentals. As of September 22nd, we're near 13,000 rentals for the year, which is about 1,000 more rentals than what we saw for the entire year of 2019. We have $160,000 in revenue from that operation. That is up 23% compared to 2019. And that is even with, again, not opening. We were about a month late opening because of the various restrictions. Last year, that program netted $67,000. As you may recall, we had been contracting with another company to do kayaks and paddleboard rentals. We brought that in-house for this year, seeing it as an opportunity for us to really add to our operation. And right now, we're projecting that our net for that program is going to be close to $115,000 for the year. So a significant jump in overall net revenue that can help to support some of the other areas of the district. And then lastly, just with the Fort Hill Activity Center, we still have 43% of our memberships that remain frozen. 57% of our memberships are still active and paying fees. In July, I had reported out that we were at about 37% of the scans or the visits when compared to July of 2019. We've seen an increase. We're up to 41% when we compare the months of August to the month of August in 2019. So we are starting to see that start to rise. And since reopening on June 26th, we've added just over 300 new members. And so that's something that will continue, especially as we get into the cooler months. And we know that people will be looking for opportunities to recreate and to exercise inside, that we will certainly look to get them back indoors. That's all I have.
I have a couple of questions, Mr. Riley.
Go right ahead.
The basketball program, Brad, the children are required to wear masks, correct?
That's correct, because it's an indoor sport.
So I'm a bit confused. I'm taking my son down to Plainfield because they aren't required to wear masks. So if you can, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, you can certainly come back to this, but if I go down the road 20 minutes, my kid's not required to wear a mask, but here in Naperville he is. And I'm all about personal choice, but I'm confused as to why Plainfield's not requiring it and we are, unless I'm confused about what Plainfield's requiring. I'll double check that.
Well,
and my second question is,
Commissioner Egan, if I could respond to that, I can provide you with some information on that. The Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, the DCEO that issues the various guidelines, in the all sports policy that was issued at the end of July that went into effect on August 15th, that all sports policy states within the guidelines that indoor sports, a face covering should be worn at all times while participating in indoor sports. Outdoor sports, it's not a requirement.
it's a basketball program in Plainfield, so it should be and require, so we're either being uber conservative or Plainfield's breaking the law, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. With regard to the kayaks, we had a private business develop that program and generate over $100,000 revenue, and we took it in-house, basically stole from private business. Is that my understanding?
We had an arrangement with a private contractor who was renting kayaks and paddleboards and retaining 90% of the revenue. The district made the choice last year that we could complete that operation in-house, and so we made that change.
So we didn't see an opportunity. We let somebody else put their time, effort, and capital, working capital, into something, and then we took it from them. I object to that, and I believe that that contract should go back to private contractors. I'd like to make that motion. If there's a commissioner out there that would like to second and be pro-business, I would love it, and if not, well, then that's the end of the story. Thank you.
As I recall, this came before our board when we made the decision, right? Yeah, so the entire board weighed in on making that decision, and obviously there's precedents within the Park District. For example, the food and beverage operation at the beach used to be privately managed, and we made the business decision to bring it in-house, and that seemed to make more sense from an operational and a revenue standpoint, and this would be in that same category.
So, well, this is not an agenda item. Commissioner Egan has put forth a motion. Is there a second to put it on the agenda for our next meeting? Hearing none, we'll move on. Thank you. Okay, our next scheduled meeting, the regular meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners, October 8th, 2020, 7 p.m., right here at Fort Hill Activity Center. We have no executive session this evening, so next on our agenda is adjournment.
Thanks. Move to adjourn the September 24th, 2020 regular meeting.
Second.
A motion, a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That was